Hi again. Sorry about that. I was about to tell you about my son, who does not yet realize how very fortunate he was that I met the man I would marry in May of 1992, because I did not know at the time how very awake that man was. But he inserted himself between my behaviors and my child and redirected a lot of things that I should never have been directing at my child. I just didn't know any better because it's all I had to work with. For a few years, that was a very good relationship for my son, because if you've heard my testimony video, you know that it wouldn't have been good for his father and I to have stayed together. Would have been very bad. So, for a few years, there was blessings there. For many years after that, there was blessings interwoven with tragedies and pain. But he deflected those things from my son. So, my son's life and the way his children are being raised has effectively broken that cycle of using love and desire against people as a weapon. One of the best gifts my husband ever gave to my family. And he was not well appreciated by my family. You see, he lived with a mental condition called schizophrenia. Nowadays, they put that on a spectrum in the new DSM-5. I understand their reasoning for it, since they want the whole world on a diagnosis. It's much easier to do if you work on a spectrum. But he wasn't on a spectrum. He was full-blown, and I knew when I met him, he'd been stable for a long time. He was a wonderful person. He was the only man I ever knew that treated me the way that he did. And he still is. He's gone. We divorced in 2006. 7. Because part of the schizophrenia that he was living with involved taking medications. Horrible, horrible, horrible medications. Each medication had another medication to minimize side effects, or increase this or downplay that, and it was just this horrible, vicious cycle, which led to vicious cycles of hospitalizations and crazy, crazy things he would say that I would hear them and file them away, but I didn't really take them seriously. Nowadays, though, I'm like, oh, he was awake. He passed away a couple of years ago. At the same time that father was building this life that I have right now, he got to go home. Lucky guy. But he helped break some of those cycles. That's the point of those words. Is he helped break some of those cycles because he also had lived with those same things. He also knew. But he, being male and seeing things differently and compartmentalizing things, they pretty much all work the same way regardless of how their brains function. He was able to recognize them and bring them forward and help me as I proceeded into counseling when I met a peer counselor who exemplified a job that I wanted and didn't know existed, which I now have. I'm avoiding details. I'm sure you can tell. I'm avoiding details because it was ugly. Finding out somebody's most intimate, deepest desires, wants, needs, dreams, because that's all different words for desire, right? And finding a way to pollute them and contaminate them and weaponize them and harm them with them I don't think details are important to understand that. I don't do that anymore. And I'm hoping that is broken going forward as part of the cycle of my family, because regardless of what I said we were going to have, he chose boy. So I didn't have a daughter to perpetuate those cycles upon. And my son is able to end them. Hopefully, the vulnerability of these words with you will help you to somehow find some keys that you need through these answers, because it's horrible to do that to people. And it's even more horrible to have to look yourself in the face and live with it later after you realize what you've done. There is no healing without forgiveness. So forgive yourselves, because that's where you have to start. So I've done a lot of work in the last few videos that I've given you, kind of reviewing things. And I'm hoping that will help you to see some of my process going into answering questions 7, 8, and wrapping up 9 to go forward. So I will be making a small video for you about number 7 to show you my process, because yesterday I actually had to implement that process over 3 small things that never really occurred to me as being significant denials that triggered me to have to think through some processes, and you might find them to be fun. And fun would be good, because there's been way too much heavy and sad. I could tell by the number of views. And we'll start going into the next chapter, the next lesson, number 2, I believe, is powerless. So in the next couple of days, I hope to wrap things up, get all these final videos to you. There's still one more. It's not time yet, that we will be revisiting about secrets. And when it's time for those words to be given to you, I will. But it's been made clear it's not time. Enjoy this day. Enjoy this moment. When I started this video this morning, I knew what was in store for me today in my professional life, in my work. I knew what's coming in my personal life today. And I had all kinds of things planned around that. And it was going to be a really, really rough day. But I've made these 2 videos now. And the freedom of truth, and just getting it said and getting it off my chest and answering it and being done with this question in honesty, authenticity, transparency, vulnerability, and a significant amount of trust, which I rarely grant to people. You have helped me do that. And I think I can go forward now. Thank you for your support. And I hope to do the same for you. I have much more to do today, so at some point I will bring you answers on 7 and 8. We'll talk about 9, because that's that support system, y'all. Some important stuff right there. That might take us into some wellness conversations over the weekend. We'll see. Depends on what Maverick's got going on topic-wise for lesson 2. I can't allow myself to get behind this far again. It brings me pressure. Very uncomfortable pressure, prioritizing pressure, and I need to stay on top of that. So I apologize that we've gotten behind, and I will make great efforts to ensure that does not happen again going forward after we get over this little hump. I look forward to speaking to you again. I might see some of you on some of the upcoming live chat radios posts. It's hard to tell. I don't always make my presence known. I prefer to try and focus on the lessons rather than using these tired eyes to read what everybody has to say when it doesn't really have anything to do with me anyway. So the lessons are more valuable to me. But I'm usually there. So maybe I'll see some of you there. Maybe we'll have something to say. In the meantime, I wish you great blessings this day. And I remind you that you are love. So show it.